All right, so moving on to our next speaker as well, ladies and gentlemen. The moment I said our next speaker, I could see a couple of smiles flash there. We've already taken a good look at the agenda, and we know who our next speaker is. And while we all know that he's a world-renowned speaker himself, being a global expert in finance, transportation, and media as well, we're talking about transforming the future of transportation. And who better than our speaker, who in fact has a lot of fans inside the hall as well, and has ensured that he actually translates his passion into all of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome on stage the chairman of Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, Mr. Bibop Gresta.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is it working? Yes. Oh, I'm so proud to be here and thankful for all the warm welcome that I received in these 2 days. I've been quite a lot in India. As you know, I've been back and forth. I'm now living in Abu Dhabi because of a very important project that we are bringing to life. But India is a particular special market for us. You know, I want to try to do this presentation in a little bit different this time because I want to try to answer all your questions even before you add it. Okay, so let me try to be, you know, summarizing all the questions that I received during my presentation in a succinct way. So first, the first question everybody asks me, what the hell is the Hyperloop, right? So we are among friends. I will not be offended. How many of you doesn't know what the Hyperloop is? Please raise your hand. Don't be shy. Okay, okay. Just 10, 15%. No, please, keep your hands up, okay. Security, remove these people from the audience. I'm joking. I have a video that explains what the Hyperloop is.
I have a name for it, which is called the Hyperloop.
No, you have to put some audio on, please. Thank you.
I have a name for it, which is called the Hyperloop.
So what's Hyperloop?
Guys,
Mr. Musk's plan.
audio.
Move people using a map.
No, it was working.
I have a name for it,
Thank you.
which is called the Hyperloop.
So what's Hyperloop? Mr. Musk's plan. Move people using a massive vacuum tube combined with a magnetic levitation system.
Guys, just pull up the audio. It's not complicated.
I have a name for it,
good.
which is called
Thank
the
you.
Hyperloop.
So what's Hyperloop? Mr. Musk's plan. Move
Is it a
people
joke?
using a massive vacuum tube
You have it in
combined with a
mono.
magnetic
You just
levitation
have to put it in
system.
stereo.
Kind of like a Jetsons tunnel.
Ah,
It's
good.
something like that.
Okay, thank you. What's the Hyperloop?
I have a name for it, which is called the Hyperloop.
So what's Hyperloop? Mr. Musk's plan. Move people using a massive vacuum tube combined with a magnetic levitation system. Kind of like a Jetsons tunnel.
It's something like that, yeah.
Traveling by Hyperloop. It's going to be the future. They're making this.
To imagine a capsule filled with people.
You put this capsule inside the tube,
You create a low-pressure environment inside the tube,
so you have no resistance.
and it's moving very fast from point A to point B.
So the capsule, very similar to an airplane that goes in high altitudes, can travel really fast with very little energy.
Is the main trick to it the vacuum and the fact that there's no friction? Is that the main reason why it makes it so fast?
Tesla founder Elon Musk proposed this new technology called Hyperloop, and it's being developed right now in Playa Vista, here in this hangar behind me. Company Hyperloop has teamed up with the students to create this tube technology.
So when Elon published the document, he just drafted a possible way to achieve this. 2 months later, my business partner, Dirk Alborn, a genius German entrepreneur, took this document, published in our website, Jumpstart Found, and did a call to action.
There was a great project, a great idea, and Elon actually said he wanted someone else to take it on. He wanted a community to make this happen.
It's the first company used crowdsourcing to solve one of the biggest problems of humanity, that is transportation. They have to work at least 10 hours a week, and we give them in exchange 1 stock for every hour worked. And we have been overwhelmed of engineers from all over the planet. There were people from, NASA, Tesla, SpaceX, Boeing, MIT.
We want to give our communities that's supporting us the possibility to own parts of the company.
So we are creating the biggest crowdsourcing project in the planet.
The company says it already has several potential investors and wants to take Hyperloop to China in the future.
Big headline of the day, Hyperloop's Chief Operating Officer Bibop Gresta, the transportation technology startup, believes that the Hyperloop will be cheaper than high-speed rail in the country. Take a look.
You have to consider that the Hyperloop is not a new idea. Humanity tried to build this system several times in the past. India has a very big problem on infrastructure.
The race is on. Elon Musk's vision for a high-speed passenger pods known as the Hyperloop is one step closer to becoming reality this morning. One of the known companies competing to capitalize on Musk's proposal, announcing today it has struck a deal with landowners in Central California to build the first full-scale Hyperloop along a 5-mile stretch along I-5.
Dirk, tell me about this deal and really when you expect this Hyperloop, this 5-mile stretch, to be finished.
Quay Valley is supposed to be breaking ground beginning of 2016.
We are able today to announce at the World Economic Forum the actual filing of the construction permit to the Kings County.
From dream to reality, Hyperloop transport company that wants to connect San Francisco and Los Angeles at 760 miles an hour could happen in as little as 4 years. Bibop Gresta is Hyperloop Transportation Technologies COO and Deputy Chairman. He joins me out here today. It's good to see you, Bibop.
Thank you, Kelly.
And I'm learning a lot about the Hyperloop being out here.
We announced the start of the construction of the full-scale prototype in Quay Valley, north of Los Angeles.
Can you imagine and walk us through what it might be like to travel at the speed of sound?
It's not going to be much different than sitting in an airplane, actually.
In railroads, most accidents are human factors. Plus, a lot of the derailments are actually happened because something's on the track. So we're in a closed system. We're completely managed by a computer system.
Will the Hyperloop kill the railroad?
The Hyperloop is going to do to the U.S. what the railroads did in the 1800s. So it will change the way we live. It's possible today, it's based on existing technologies, and it's the right time, it's the right moment to finally get something doing like this.
Is it visionary? In 30 years' time, will you and I be sitting on our rocking chairs going, well, we talked about it then, and he did it?
Do you think this is possible? This is not just...
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I hope it's a little bit more clear on the journey that we've had in the last 4 years about building a company that has the potentiality to change humanity. Now, the questions that I receive are various. For example, there is a common question, why do you need an Hyperloop? Isn't the high-speed rail fast enough? Well, first you need to think of what's out there. And you guys really know how to mess up transportation, right? I mean, there's a lot of traffic and there's a lot of problem in the Indian cities. But you're not the best in doing this, because if you look around the world, you know, this is Jakarta, for example. This guy seems to say, I don't care, I have my bike. But this is not a way to solve the problem. Imagine in China, for example, you know, they have been stuck in traffic for 24 hours during the National Day this year. And I don't want to know how they solve the problem of going to the bathroom. Don't make me think about this. But they are ninja traffic jammers. They know how to do this thing. Imagine, this is Beijing in a very good day. Because in a bad day, Beijing looks like this. And this is happening every single day. So you're not looking, you don't see him, you just go through him. But if you start to see all the transportation means and how we conceived every single element of our transportation infrastructure, it's broken. At the airport, everything seems to know where we are going except our luggage. And we're staring a carousel while the baggage is promptly delivered somewhere in Botswana or whatever, right? But it's systematic. Now there's shops that will resell our goods for 70% of discount. Very interesting. You should go there because you will find your baggage lost 10 years ago. So it's a systematic system that we put in place to fail. I was in Chile, for example, with the Ministry of Transportation. He was showing me around his beautiful new underground, and we got stuck. It happens all the time in London, in Chile, in everywhere. We haven't conceived the throughput, so when there are too many people, this happens. And we were playing like the World Championship of synchronized sweating. It was nasty. He won, by the way. But this is not human. We are conceiving even systems that doesn't balance the energy consumption, and so we need to shut them down for hours to actually keep it running. I'll give you another example, okay? Let's say we have this guy, okay? It's named Bibop. He's 29. Yeah, well, whatever. World changer, okay? He's smart, good looking, and very humble. And there's this girl, okay? So this guy lives in Bori Valley, and the girl lives in Bandra West, okay? Her name is Sonam, age 32, a little old, but he's okay. Profession actress, and she's special trait, smart, good looking, and romantic, okay? Oh, perfect match, right? If she is living in the other side of the city, it's not going to happen. Sorry, I'm not going to date her. Sorry, mom, dad, I'm not going to do that. So we are choosing who to love based on traffic. And this is a problem that is impacting our humanity and our life. If I would tell you tomorrow is the last day of your life, you will be pissed. You will be disappointed. You start to think of all the things that you haven't been to achieve in your life, right? Well, if you're living in one of these cities around the world, you're living 1, 2, 3 years less than was expected. They stole 3 years of your life, and we're becoming numb. We think it's normal, it's okay. They're stealing, yeah, they're doing it very smart because, you know, they steal 10 minutes here, half an hour there, 1 hour there. We're stuck in traffic, and we think it's normal, you know. We have a revenge. We honk. That's, you know, how we spend our time, but this is not human anymore. And we think we need to find a solution very soon. That was the premises on why we need an Hyperloop, why we need to actually change the way we conceive cities. Imagine to go from Mumbai to Pune, instead of 2 hours and a half, you take 13 minutes. Now you can work in one city and live in another one. You know, you can live in Bombay and work in Pune. No, I don't know who want to do that. But I mean, you can actually do things, conceiving cities that are distant kilometers into an entire single conglomerate. And this is the same city now. So, you know Elon Musk, the genius entrepreneur that is bringing us to Mars with SpaceX, or invented the complete solar car that goes faster than any other car. So why, if he invented the system, he didn't participate into Hyperloop Transportation Technologies? Well, Elon wasn't the inventor of the Hyperloop. The Hyperloop, actually, it's a technology that started its development in 1870 under what it will be called New York Subway. A brilliant scientist, Eli Beach, but started to develop a technology. For a kilometer, he dig under the New York Subway between Broadway and Warren. 1 kilometer of this evacuated tube. It was like a train with a reduced air environment. It was the primordial Hyperloop. It's been stopped by the rail industry because they thought it was a competitor, and they said, you know, you can't do that. In 1904, a brilliant rocket scientist, Robert Goddard, the father of the rocket science, patented a solution that was very similar to the Hyperloop. If you look at that, you know, the characteristic was there. There was an evacuated pump, and he published the characteristic. He foresaw a system that can be going from New York to San Francisco at 250 miles per hour. The entire scientific community insurged, and they said, no, wait a minute. Humans cannot travel above 100 miles per hour. It's scientifically proven, so just stop this because, you know, we will all die. That wasn't exactly a reality, but unfortunately, at that time, he didn't have the tools to prove it. 1969, the American government published in Popular Science 4 different transportation systems that were very similar to the Hyperloop: tube travel and gravity vacuum. And guess what? They're very similar in technology. The only difference was that they were using active levitation that was very popular at that time, but that wasn't the right way to do it and has been stopped. So several ways, in several times, humanity tried to build an Hyperloop. You've seen it in cartoons. Disney created a documentary in the 70s. And several big corporations in Switzerland, for example, they tried to build it. When Elon Musk published the white paper in 2013, he didn't invent it. He was just pointing a giant spotlight on this possibility. And he said, this is too big of a project. I'm too busy with SpaceX, Tesla, and bringing people to Mars. But I will publish one way, a white paper, and whoever wants to pick it up, please do it. And me and my business partner decided we are crazy enough to actually think that was a good idea. But we did it in a unique way. Instead of creating a company, raising as much money as you can, we were thinking that was the right moment to ask for help. We had a website called Jumpstart Found. It was a crowdsourcing website. And the concept is simple. You can work in any project that is published in this website, and in exchange, you get stock options of the company. And we have hundreds of companies now that are doing this, but this was the biggest. That was the biggest attempt. And what happened after is magic. So we are a crowdsourcing company. You read it, everybody's talking about it, and we've seen a lot of critics. Oh, you're not a real company. What is that? Crowd what? I don't know. I mean, this is, out of my comprehension. Well, if you think about it, several companies in the past did it very successfully. Now, I want to ask you something. What have this company in common? Any idea? They all failed. Yeah, well, BlackBerry, I met his CEO, is not happy that I'm saying but come on, they failed. They failed because they were market leader and they haven't seen the market changing. They weren't listening. Now, what about these companies? For example, GE, Coca-Cola, Kraft, Unilever, Amazon, Lego, NASA. Well, they were in the same moment, but they did something magic. They started to listen to their people, their consumers. They started to ask for help. Lego is an amazing example. It was almost bankrupt. It started to involve their customers in the decision-making process, and now is the biggest toy company in the world, using the crowd. So we are not doing anything different. We are not doing anything different than a startupper that wants to start a company and put together his friends and say, okay, let's start to work in this. We share the ownership, and then we start. But we did it at a planetary level. And we do crowdstorming. We ask all the questions. Every month, we do this brainstorming section, calling the planet to give us advices on how to improve and to do this thing better. And we ask every kind of question. How to build better tubes, how to improve our structure of the pylon. Do we need a ticket? For example, in the 21st century, do we need a ticket? Not paper or electronic. Is it a ticket, a monetization system that is still valid in the 21st century? And we discovered through Fullerton, Harvard, through big professors at universities that there are at least 4 ways to monetize user in transportation without charging a ticket. So these are the questions that you need to ask. Now, me and my business partner, we are not the smartest people in the group. Trust me, we have an amazing amount of people right now, scientists, professionals, architects, landscape designer. We have universities that joined the team. They said we are the biggest startup in the planet. I don't like the definition. This is one way to see it. The way I see it, we are the biggest attempt that humanity did to put together the best minds that we have in the planet to solve one of the biggest problems of humanity, transportation. But this is a template. We published now our structure in Harvard Business Review. I'm super proud about this. But this is taken as a template to solve all the problems of humanity. We can solve everything, energy, food, housing, by putting together the best mind. We need to restart rethinking our companies and the way we approach every single problem. We have a solution for everything. Come on, we're producing food for 12 billion people. We are 7 billion and 2 billion are starving. This is craziness. We have the technology to solve these problems. And we have best contributors. If you look at our top names, you have 3 centuries of experience in aerospace. We have people from Lockheed Martin, NASA, Tesla, SpaceX, Boeing, people that are retired scientists that worked at the Apollo mission. And every day, we receive hundreds of requests. This is an example of what we receive in our HR every day. People that doesn't want to contribute only on, work. They want to also contribute with money, with tools. We received $25 million in land, pumps. The inventors of the vacuum pump, labeled, it's a stock-listed company, gave us all the pumps, and they said, well, we already built an Hyperloop. We have the Hyerloop Collider that works at 10 minus 10 Pascal, and so this is a problem that we solved. Here's the solution. And in every single topic, we've had someone helping us and giving us the tool to do that. And this is magic, because now we are at the point where humanity is starting to understand that when we work together, we can solve every problem. So why hasn't been built before? Well, first, our approach has been different from the beginning. We put together technologies that were already existing as much as we can. And we discovered that almost all the elements that we needed were there. Now we need only to improve it and to put it together in an integration way that makes sense. And honestly, when you build an Hyperloop, the biggest problem that you face at the end of the day is levitation, because all the rest is pretty much straightforward. But speed is not the only interesting thing about the Hyperloop. Efficiency is something that will change everything forever. Because when you have a system that is completely sustained by renewables, and it can actually combine solar panel, wind, kinetic energy, because the capsule that moves generates electricity, regenerative braking, because when we stop, we generate electricity. And in some climates where the solar panels are not efficient, you combine it with geothermal, the combination of the energy of nature can actually produce up to 30% more electricity than we consume. What does it mean? That we become immensely rich? No. We can create business models that are as cheap as anything has been invented. We are a cost per passenger that is minimum. Between Los Angeles and San Francisco, we're talking about $5, okay? So we can get rid of the model of transportation that right now is called subsidies. Every transportation system on the ground is subsidized by the state. I know, it's a bad news, but you are paying for every passenger that is traveling right now in the rail in India, and in high-speed rail, it will be all treasures. That's why I'm against high-speed rail, because it doesn't make money, and it means that we will create, for every rail system, a liability for our children, for our nephews, and it's not gonna repay ever, okay? So why? Why are we doing this? Why we have the technology to actually fix it? And we can do it for freight and passenger. The cost also to build it, it's very cheap. Because at the end of the day, it's a tube with some pylon, nothing on the ground, and I will explain in a second why it's so disruptive. But also the throughput is amazing. You know, when you build a road, by the time you finish to build it, it's already obsolete. It's full of cars, and then you have to build another one, and another one. Now we're starting to build one on top of the other. What do we have to do? A castle of roads? It doesn't work. It's broken, okay? So imagine to be able to move a capsule 28, 40, or 50 people. We have 3 models, depending on the speed profile. And be able to depart it every 40 seconds. Now we can depart 3,400 people an hour. 67,000 people a day in the higher capsule, higher density, you can arrive at 164,000 people a day, 24 million people a year with one tube. We can substitute the entire flight industry between Los Angeles and San Francisco 4 times with one tube, okay? But it gets better, because now we can develop pylons of 30,000 PSI with ultra high performance concrete. We're looking at different things, graphene concrete, carbon concrete, and we can 3D print it in 72 hours. Each robot can actually build one pylon, speeding up the construction process, and we can put up to 7+1 tube. It means 500 million people on a fully developed system. I know in India you like to have children, you have a large family. Go for it. We have the system to actually afford it in the next 100 years, okay? And the system can also be built on top of a rail or on top of a highway. We have the right of way. It's our rails, our highways. We don't need anything else right now. In the future, maybe we can go straight, go faster, and have 1,223 kilometers per hour. But you don't need that. The system is so efficient that actually can replace even the metro. And the way we're building, we're looking at existing right-of-ways, especially at the beginning, to actually avoid all the problem of the right-of-way. Sustainability is important. What Margie was talking about is the start of a new generation of cities, of infrastructures that needs to look on how to solve one problem without creating another 10. You know, when we build a rail, okay, we don't think that we are creating a giant infrastructure that, you know, we're going to the farmer and we say, oh, give me your land. I will disrupt it completely because, you know, there's a giant now a rail passing on your land. You can't access to the other side. Your animal cannot migrate anymore, and it will be polluting. And every 20 minutes, you will have a giant train at 100 decibel passing in your land. What do you think he will say? He will say no. He will try to oppose it as much as he can because you're stealing his life, a piece of what he is as a human being, right? So we need to start to rethink how we do this in terms also of infrastructure. And we're building on pylons. We go there and we say a different thing. We say, okay, give me a little piece of 3 meters per 4, or depending on the height of the pylon, but in exchange, we'll give you electricity. We'll give you a vertical garden around the pylon. We will give you bandwidth because in the same infrastructure, we can transport this. And guess what? We discovered that when you have a tube and a solar panel, you have a desalinization system. One of our scientists noticed that maybe we can also desalinize water, taking it from the sea and bring it to the people that needs it. Now, it's almost a pity to use it for farming. You can bottle it and sell it, how pure it becomes. And you can actually reuse the salt. So we have these technologies. We need to start to think a new generation of transportation and also the entire human experience. In the station, 70% of the operation we do there, it can be done even before you arrive there. So frictionless station. You just arrive, and if you have, you know, depending on the profile that you have, you can actually access different gates. There are some people that has a security profile that it's more controlled than others. So using data mining and also using passive scanning, you can actually take out all these check-in procedures that we have, being more safe than what we are right now. So this is an exciting moment because we can redefine completely the entire passenger experience. Also inside the capsule, you know, we can't have windows because our airframe goes too fast to have windows. But we can embrace something different. So I receive a lot of questions about this. You know, we'll be shooting inside a tube at the speed of sound, we're gonna die, right? How do you survive the speed of sound? Well, first, the G-force that expresses the speed that you are, the force that you are actually receiving inside the capsule is not a force, it's a measure of acceleration. You have to consider that for the relativity principle, if you accelerate slow enough, this is called jerk in the scientific term, you can actually reach the speed of light without feeling it. Takes a while, you have to be very patient, but you can theoretically accelerate as much as you can. And I don't know how many of you has ever tried to go at the speed of sound. Anyone? Okay, let me show you what it is, okay? My team put me
We're flying out of
inside.
Mojave Spaceport today.
Okay. So we're working with the top company in the planet for space simulation. They're capable of simulate all the forces implied inside the Hyperloop. And this is me inside this giant simulator. We're going at 0.7 G. This is the average force of the Hyperloop. As you see, it's pretty easy to simulate 0.7. It's not, I was very disappointed because you don't feel anything. But they also put me in a different condition. In a while, I'm leaving the atmosphere in this simulation. We're working in the same Virgin Galactic simulator. As you know, at the end of the year, the space program, Free Space Agency will start space tourism. So we will be able to go in space. And what we saw is a very strange thing. Humans are adapting. For example, I don't know if you noticed, in the airplanes, nobody is using the air sick anymore, you know, the air sick bag. And I remember when I was a child, I've seen a couple of passengers being sick, but now humans are slowly adapting to the G-forces. And in an airplane case, we're talking about 1.52 G when you are in the airplane. So we're talking about being at a speed inside the capsule that creates a G-force that is less than a car. So it would be a little bit boring, but we did something better. First, safety for us is the first concern, okay? It was an obsession from day number one. I don't want to scare you, okay? Airplanes has a coefficient, the airplane industry, of 0.007 accident every 100 million passenger miles. It means every 3.75 years, an airplane is supposed to go down. And I personally very touched about this because I take one airplane every 2 days. So I'm traveling for 4 years. I'm technically dead probably. So anyway, the reality is that we have the technology to actually, in normal case, stop very gently by having a 32-second deceleration from the speed of sound, and it's 5 kilometers distance. But in case of emergency, we have systems that can actually shut down the valves, decelerate in 6.4 seconds, re-inject the air, and then evacuate the people through the pylons comfortably because you are on the ground. So you are in a system that is implicitly safer than anything else because you're replicating what the space industry is doing, but on the ground. So in case something goes wrong, the capsule gently touches down and we can evacuate the people. Nothing on the ground has this characteristic. And you're protected because you can't have a cow crossing by, you can't have a car stuck in the middle, and you don't have any problem on any weather conditions. So you can guarantee people whatever happens in the external. How can you be ready to build the first Hyperloop if you haven't built a test track? Well, that's not true. So we haven't shown a lot, but we have 2 test tracks actually. What you have to know about our technology is that it was developed in the last 20 years by the biggest research lab in America. It's called Lawrence Livermore Lab. And that's where Einstein created the atomic bomb, unfortunately, but also the best levitation scientist works. And there was a professor, Professor Richard Post, that contacted us immediately. And they said, we have the technology for you. It's classified, but I know how to declassify it for civil. They're using it to stabilize bullets inside cannons, the American government. But you can use it for your system. At the end of the day, you're a bullet inside a giant cannon. I was like, oh, wow, never thought about it, yeah. But it was a genius idea, and that's what happened.
Using magnets to move and elevate trains is not a new thing. But this method hasn't been efficient enough to make sense on a large scale. The primary reason? Simple. A vast amount of energy is required to power the system. 20 years ago, a team of engineers from Lawrence Livermore Labs began the work that would solve those problems. For more than 2 decades, they've researched a full-scale functioning prototype. And in that time, they discovered how to arrange magnets over an aluminum track in such a way that the track uses almost no power, making it much more efficient. At Hyperloop, we've picked up where they left off, adapting that revolutionary system for commercial use. There are several ways in which our system, using passive magnetic levitation, is safer and more efficient than maglev technology currently in use. Let's start with efficiency. Regenerative braking during deceleration recovers much of the energy used for acceleration. Power stations are not required along our track, making our system more affordable to build than previous levitation systems. Let's talk about safety. Only when the pod slows and returns to a safe speed will it gently touch down on the track once again. A comfortable, natural occurrence with our magnetic levitation system. At a slow, comfortable speed, the capsule rises up from the track. This levitation remains steady and constant through the duration of the journey. We find the smartest technologies and look for ways to improve them. You'll find this approach repeated over and over within every aspect of HTT innovation.
So you've seen a little piece of a larger documentary that National Geographic is doing on us. The first images was our test track in California, in San Diego, where Professor Page developed the full technology. So that was tested and developed since the course of the year with General Atomics. The second part was showing you the test track that we built, the small-scale test track that we built in Los Angeles, in our headquarters. So we tested and we proved that the technology works also in CFD simulation, because now we can simulate everything, including going to Mars. And we can actually predict the offset of the margin of error. So we are now ready to build the first one, and we are in negotiation with several countries. Now, the passenger experience, I was talking about how the capsule cannot have windows. What we analyze is that human eyes has some limits. You look images at 120K pixel, so it's measured in pixel. The human eye is a very precise organ. But in reality, what happens above 12 pixel, we interpolate. We don't see any details anymore. So if you build screens above 11Ks, you are basically simulating reality. You cannot distinguish if it's a Windows or if it's a screen. And now, here's the magic. What about creating a technology that can actually simulate reality? You're inside the capsule, you're looking out, and this is a screen. You're looking out, looking at the slower version of reality, so you're not sick. Even if I bark, it doesn't change our horizon. So you're comfortable. But while you move, the sensors are repositioning the perspective in a way that reality works. Now, where do you want to go? Want to go to Paris? Want to go to India at the time of the Maharajas? And look at the eyes where the people were living 2 centuries ago. Or you want to go in space? We can bring you there. And this is a new way of transportation. It's a new way to conceive the journey, like Marco Polo was designing. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. We are recouping the pleasure to travel and unleash our imagination. But it's also an amazing way to monetize users without charging a ticket, because now you can have premium services that are charged for people that can afford it, and maybe giving the system for free for the others. And these are new ways. They are actually very profitable. So I'm confused. I've heard about the Hyperloop, but are you the original Hyperloop? There's another Hyperloop. How many Hyperloop there are? It's confusing, right? Well, we are the company that actually brought the system from a paper to reality. And we are not a company anymore. We always say we're a company with a movement. And we created an industry. Now there are several other companies that are popping up. Even if we own the brand Hyperloop in 33 countries, including India, we want competition. We're fostering other companies to do the same. We need to do this and to give this technology to humanity as fast as we can. And there will be space for everybody. I think we are unique for the technologies that we're using and also the the way we are doing it, but we push everyone, including any one of you that wants to join this amazing movement. Please do. Open your company, push it, or join the team and help us, in your case. But the reason why I'm doing this is that, there's also another company called Hyperloop. This company, I think if you want to do another company, innovate, okay? Don't copy, don't be, a clone. They call themselves Hyperloop Technologies like us, creating a lot of confusion. Then they changed the name in Hyperloop. What I'm saying, if you want to join the team, join the right one, okay? Write it down and then apply to join our team. So, okay, when can I have my first Hyperloop ride? I hear this question over and over. Okay, we are in negotiation with 20 countries, and India is one of them. We've been meeting prime ministers, the Ministry of Transportation all over the world. And as you see, the world now is ready to have an Hyperloop. We have negotiation. You probably heard last week I signed a deal with Jakarta, with the Indonesian government. We have UAE, we have Slovakia, France, California, and Czech Republic. But the network is expanding, and I foresee an amazing future made by Hyperloop transportation networks. And we have amazing partners on board. We have a partnership with Facebook, and we're opening an Hyperloop Academy to talk to our next generation engineers and to allow them to work and actually solve real problems for us inside the universities. When do we have finally the Hyperloop in India, right? So there's several routes. I met Modi, Gadkari, Niti Gadkari, the Minister of Transportation, Chandrababu Naidu, several chief ministers, 5. And we're now in the verge of announcing something really important in India. Why is it so important? Because India has a lack of infrastructure, has a high density of population, and the need to a faster, more efficient, and sustainable way to transport people. And we can bring it there. So I want to, leave you with this. Those who say can be done should not interrupt those doing it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Namaste.
You.
Namaste.
Let's have a huge round of applause there, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, my God. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks. It's a team. It's not me. It's not me. So we need any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And to moderate the question session, I'm going to invite Mr. Mayank Gandhi to please come on stage to moderate this particular session, a visionary presentation over there.
Thank you for having me. Huh? Thank you. This man is amazing.
That was something. Don't you agree? I decided.
No. Present, not futuristic.
I decided I will not die till I see 4 things. One is I want to see David Fisher's rotating building. I want to meet Navin Jain for the Moon Express, where he is going to take people to the moon regularly. Yep. And he is a brilliant man. He is arranging trips to the moon, and you can book your ticket for $10,000 now, and you'll go 7 to 8 years after this. And the most important thing, he's going to take a lot of payload and luggage to the moon to set up a colony. And he's doing it because Elon Musk is doing his SpaceX, where he's doing the Mars. And he will have to get down at moon to refuel, which is why Navin Jain is creating this entire thing. So I want to see both of them. And the most important, Bibop, I want to see Hyperloop. I want to travel on it. I will not die till I do that. Thank you.
I will not allow it, okay?
You control that also.
Well, I'll try.
We'll take some questions.
Very simple question. When do you deliver this to India?
So we are actually in negotiation with 5 states. There are several chief ministers that have an offer, including the Ministry of Transportation. So I should ask the question to the chief ministers to know, including the Maharashtra chief minister. So we are now working very actively, and I'm coming to India very often. My team is moving me like a package around the world, and I see constantly coming back in India. It means the negotiation is going very well. We are at least in one state very advanced, but I need your help. I need the people, there are local people, to actually help me, not only convince the authorities, but also we have a vision that we need to engage local companies. Hyperloop has a tremendous potentiality for local companies to actually develop and flourish. We need a lot of elements that India is rich of, like, for example, steel, so carbon, iron, copper. We are levitating in a laminate of aluminum without any electricity on the bottom, and all the logic of proportional levitation is on the capsule. So imagine how much material do we need. Aluminum is very cheap now, but if it was copper, it would be better. And India has all these resources. So we can, the consequences is that we can also generate a lot of jobs, and we can foresee India in a forefront to also provide this for the rest of the world. We were discussing a brilliant idea of how, for example, the new aerospace industry that is now born and is demonstrating how India can be more efficient than anyone else. India is bringing a probe to Mars at 1/10 of the cost of NASA. So this is, making India is not a claim, it's a possibility. But the politicians need to create the right environment for investors like me and my partners to actually start a business here. So
is it true that you've been given a contract to create a prototype on the Mumbai-Pune highway?
We don't have a contract. We are discussing. So I know, I believe it when I see the signature. That's me.
We'll take
but
the next question.
Let's say, yes, we are in discussion for this.
Fantastic. It is the real present. In fact, in our ancient scriptures, we had 22 forms of energy, and nowhere was oil described as the form of energy for what we are doing. You are now taking us onto a different loop from a material zone, probably to a subtle energy zone. Is there some biological insights given to what happens to our electrons and magnetic fields that the human being possesses during such a travel? Is there some medical guys looking at it also?
We have amazing experts. Luckily, this field has been analyzed and developed during the course of the last 15 years. And we have plenty of studies to see the electromagnetic influence on humans. Luckily enough, we are in an hyperbaric chamber, so we can screen humans for everything that is outside. And we have also another very characteristic: we are silent. They say in space they don't hear you scream, right? Because we are completely in an evacuated environment. The benefit of it is that creating a complete isolated system can actually open up to possibilities that were not possible before, because we can now screen it from nuclear attacks or chemical attacks, or we can actually defend the system from AMP. Now the American government is very worried. Terrorism is at another level. It's electronic terrorism. They can arrive with a bag, exploded. It's like an atomic explosion, but it just fries. Everything is electric. Now, if you do something like that in Los Angeles, you cause 1 million deaths in the first month, just by taking out electricity from the city. So this is a very real threat, and humanity is not prepared to afford it, right? So we need to conceive systems that actually are capable of defending us to this kind of threats, and Hyperloop is one of them. So this is one aspect. The physiology aspect is also very interesting, because what we are doing is anything different from what has been studied in the aerospace industry. We are keeping people for a very short amount of time. Now we have data to know what happens when you keep people in hyperbaric chambers for years, okay? So in reality, our journey inside the Hyperloop is a fraction of what we already do every day. We're working, traveling in an airplane there's much more electromagnetic disturbance in an airplane than inside the Hyperloop.
We'll take two more questions. We are
so
running
when
short
your
of time.
pilot project would be ready, sir?
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, I want to know about your pilot project. In which country?
So we have had a pilot in California, a small scale, but now we are building a full-scale Hyperloop in Abu Dhabi.
Okay, when it will start commercial operation?
So we are finishing the feasibility study. We are at the deliverable number 4 with amazing results. I cannot say anything because I will burn the announcement. But at the end of March, we will be finishing the feasibility study. And now we have a couple of months to actually have the government decide the location. And from the approval, we have 38 months to have the first 10 kilometers up and running. So we're talking about 2020, the first passenger.
Last question.
Yeah. When the Concorde came, London, New York in 3 hours and all, it did not scale up. I think they're using for cargo today. 1,200 kilometers per hour. On the ground, it is a speed which can affect the heart. I think, I don't know, you must have taken studies. On the 35,000 feet above, this speed, you don't, when you're in the plane, you don't feel of speed. When you're on the ground, the G, gravity, and with 1,200 kilometers per hour, what would be effect on the biological effect on the heart? I don't know. I'm just for this one.
Absolutely.
Because there's something which is we've got to study about it.
Okay, so you probably didn't read anything about NASA or ETC because NASA now just published the new studies about bypass because of the space travel. They certified FAA travel at 5G with bypasses and earth attacks. So right now, people subjected to air conditions can travel up to 5G certified. And you have to see how we evolved in the studies of the G-force. And it's not about the G-force, it's how long and what kind of G-force you're receiving. Because you have to know that the G-force has different direction, the Y, the X, and the Z. And if the G-force is active G-force, it pushes the blood to your head. And this is tolerated. In some studies, we reached 12 G for 2 minutes without having the person fainting. The opposite G-force is less tolerated. So our capsule design is designed to bark, to minimize, and also the chairs are barking to minimize the actually G-force. The lateral G-force is less tolerated because the labyrinthic system gets confused. Usually what we do is to actually trick the labyrinthic system by maintaining the horizon in the same level. This actually mitigates the effect of G-force because the nausea is caused on contemporary forces plus the horizontal changing. And we don't have that thanks to our technology. So the result will be a smoother, more comfortable, and less impactful travel because we don't have any turbulences inside the capsule.
Thank you so much. Trust me, Bibop, all of us, when we are stuck in the traffic, we will all dream of Hyperloop.
Good. I'm working to take out all the traffic out and bring you to the next generation of transportation.
I would request Mr. Ajay Chaudhary of Gazania Shelters and Arya to come and felicitate you. Can I also come and join you to felicitate? Be a pleasure to.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wine, women, Hyperloop, croissant.
Of course.
Bibop, just quite a few people have asked me, maybe I should clarify. In India, we have South Indian accent, we have Marathi accent, Punjabi accent. So people with your peculiar English accent wanted to know where you come from. So let me tell the audience, Bibop originally comes from Italy. Now, when he mentioned that to me, I told him that what a coincidence, I am going to Italy at the end of April. So he explained to me a couple of eateries where he it's in Florence. And then he looked around diplomatically to see that my family is not around, and he told me, and don't miss the women. So, a very true-blooded Italian. Congratulations, Bibop. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks. Very kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, sir, for that fantastic presentation. And thank you once again. We are really, really looking forward to this.